Dear audience, greetings to one and all. I hope that you will be sailing in the ocean of peace and prosperity. Today, I am going to present before you Shrimad Bhagwat Mahapuran, Book 3, Discourse 2, in which Uddhava recounts the childish sports of the Lord. Sri Shuk continued, thus asked the news relating to his beloved Sri Krishna, that great devotee of the Lord. Uddhava was put in mind of his Lord and was too overwhelmed with emotion to utter a word in reply. While engaged in worshipping the Lord in his child's play, even as a boy of 5, Uddhava felt no inclination even to have his breakfast in spite of his mother's call. Having grown grey in his service by flux of time, how could he answer widow's query regarding his Lord, his thought being fixed on his feet? Uddhava said, the sun in the shape of Sri Krishna having set, our home shop blighted splendor have been devoured by the python of time. What shall I say then about our welfare? Alas, unfortunate in this world, and more so the Yadus who lived with Sri Hari Sri Krishna and yet could not recognize him, even as the fish did not identify the moon when she was under water. The Sattvata Yadavas, who could read the mind of others by their factual facial gestures, were highly intelligent and lived and sported with him at one and the same place. Yet they accounted him the abode of all beings, the foremost of the Yadavas. The intellect, however, of a man who has bestowed his heart on Sri Hari, his own self, cannot be misguided by the disrespectful or slanderous words of those, the Yadus and others, who are deluded by the Lord's own Maya, deluding potency, or those Sisupal and others who harbor animosity against him. Having shown his divine form to men who had practiced no penance, he has now screened it from their view, even though their eyes were not sated, and thus robbed them of their very sight, as it were, since they have nothing worth seeing left with them. The form which he had assumed in order to reveal the power of his Yogmaya divine energy, which was capable of manifesting such transcendent beauty and which was so eminently suited to his pastimes in imitation of men, was an object of wonder not only to the world but even to himself, a perfection as it was of abounding grace. It was a form whose limbs added to the charm even of ornaments. Beholding that form, which was the highest delight of all age, at the Rajasuya sacrifice of King Yudhishthir, the son of Dharma, the god of virtue, the inhabitants of all the three worlds thought that the entire workmanship of Brahma in creating this mortal world had been exhausted in fashioning that form. Feeling honored by his love-laden smiles and jokes and sportive glances which reciprocated their love, the women of Braj followed him in his excursions to the woods with their eyes and mind, and stood like dolls, leaving their household work half finished. With a mind full of compassion for his gentle forms, Vasudeva and others that were being persecuted by his wild forms, such as Kans, the Lord, who is the ruler both of Prakriti and the manifest creation, though unborn, appeared in this world of matter, along with his glorious part manifestation. Balram, even as fire, which though present everywhere in a latent form, is manifested through wood, that he who is unborn should assume the appearance of being born in the house of Vasudeva and dwell in Braj as if for fear of the enemy Kans, and that he who is possessed of infinite prowess should himself flee the city of Mathura, scared as it were by Kalyavan, puzzles me as something irreconcilable with his divinity. My mind is filled with agony as I recall what he said to his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, bowing at their feet, dear father and mother, being in great dread of Kans, we, Balram and myself, failed to render any service to you, repay our debt to you. Therefore, be pleased to forgive us. Having inhaled the fragrance of the dust of his lotus feet, what man can ever forget? Remembering that he is the same Lord who removed the earth's burden by the mere play of his arched eyebrows, eyebrows which represents the god of death. You must have seen with your own eyes the consummation oneness with the Lord, attained by Sisupal, the king of Shedi, who hated Sri Krishna, a consummation which even yogis, ascetics long to attain through the efficient practice of yoga, who could bear separation from such a benign Lord. Similarly, such other heroes of this mortal world as were killed in action during the Mahabharata war by the missiles discharged by Arjun, son of Pritha, while drinking with the cup of their eyes the nectar of Sri Krishna's lotus-like countenance, which ravished all eyes attained to his supreme abode. Himself the suzerain, Lord of all the three worlds, he is equalled by none, much less surpassed by anybody, and has all his desires satisfied by virtue of his own supremely blissful character. Nay, his very footstool is adored by the eternal guardians of the various spheres with the crest of their diadems, while offering their presents tribute to him. Standing before Ugrasen, who sat on his royal throne, he submitted, My Lord, listen to my prayer, that he should thus behave like a servant, confounds us, his slaves, to the utmost degree, dear widow. Oh, even that impious woman, Putna, the sister of the demon Baka, who suckled him as a babe at her breast, which was daubed with a most deadly poison with intent to kill him, got from him in return the destiny appropriate to a foster mother. Is there anyone so merciful whom we should resort to for protection other than him? I consider even those demons as devotees of the Lord, who had fixed their mind on the Lord of the three worlds through anger born of animosity, and who beheld on the battlefield Garud, son of the sage Kashyap, swooping on them with Lord Vishnu, the wielder of the discus Sudarshan, mounted on his back. In order to bring relief to this earth, the Lord was born of Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison house of Kansa, the chief of the Bhojas, in response to the prayer of Brahma the unborn. Having been removed therefrom to nuns Braj by his father Vasudev, who was terribly afraid of guns, he lived there with Balram, his elder brother, for 11 years, concealing his glory from the outside world. In the grove on the bank of the Yamuna, the trees of which were swarmed with warbling birds, the Lord spotted in the midst of cowherd boys grazing calves. He showed childlike gestures that were pleasing to the sight of the inhabitants of Braj, sometimes seeming to weep, sometimes appearing to laugh, and sometimes gazing innocently like a lion cub. As he grew a little older, the same Lord took to grazing white bulls and cows that were embodiments of splendor and entertained with the music of his flute the cowherd boys that accompanied him. Meanwhile, he dispatched in mere sport all those demons sent by Kans who were skilled in Maya, conjuring tricks, and could assume any form they liked, even as a child would smash up its playthings. Having tamed and expelled Kalia, a leader of serpents, he revived the cows as well as the cowherds that had fallen dead by drinking the poisoned water of the Yamuna and rendered it possible for them to drink its water, which had now regained its purity. In order to make the best use of the abundant riches in the possession of Nanda, as also to curb the pride of Indra, the Lord persuaded him to perform with the help of the best of Brahmanas a sacrifice in which cows are worshipped. Blessed Vedur, when Indra, who was enraged at the interruption of his worship, poured down torrential rains on the land of Vraja, the Lord protected the inmates of Vraj that were much agitated by holding up the Govardhan hill like a toy umbrella over them and thus showed his grace to them, making the most of the everything's bright with the rays of the autumnal moon. He sang in melodious strains and revelled in the midst of a bevy of young women gracing them by his presence. Thus ends the second discourse in Book 3, consisting of a dialogue between Vidur and Uddhav of the great and glorious Bhagwat Puran, otherwise known as the Paramhans Sanhita. यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं चेद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव प्रसीद परमेश्वर. Thanks a lot for watching the video. Stay tuned and stay healthy. See you soon.